Hi guys, it's Laura from How to Get Your Shit Together, and before I jump into the video I want to share some exciting news with you. So I just found out earlier in the week that How to Get Your Shit Together has been longlisted in the 2015 Irish Blog Awards, and I am stunned and so delighted. The site is less than a year old, so I'm really pleased with that. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who supports the site, everyone who reads the site. Thank you to anyone who nominated the site. It's listed in two categories: Best Lifestyle Blog and Best Blog Post, and I am so grateful. So a very sincere thank you. So now on with the show. I wanted to share my KonMari Midway point progress report with you, a little update on how I'm doing. I know you haven't had a video from me in a while, so I wanted to just keep you up to date on that. So I wanted to share the pros and cons of the method and what I have learned so far now that I'm about halfway through, and what I plan on doing differently going forward. And also I wanted to share some advice with you if you're thinking of starting the method. So just to share some tips about my experiences and what I've learned. So just to impart some knowledge, hopefully. So I'm going to start with the cons, purely because I like to receive bad news first and then move on to the good. And I also want to end on a positive note. So stick through the cons, don't let them kind of defeat you or put you off. Stick with them, there will be pros coming up afterwards. But the first con is that it is a lot of work. It really is. The whole idea of gathering all of your stuff together in one big pile is supposed to shock you with the amount of stuff you have. And you do have a lot, or certainly I have a lot. And I mean, I know some people can get through the method very quickly, but I think for most people, realistically, it does take several months. That certainly is my experience so far. But don't be discouraged. I really do think it's worth it. But as with most things, it does take a lot of work to get there. The next point I want to make, I guess, is technically a pro, but I'm calling it a con because I find it quite difficult. So that is that you won't shop nearly as often as you normally do, or if you do, you won't buy nearly as much. Now obviously that's great for reducing the amount of clutter and reducing the amount of stuff you're bringing into your house, but for me personally, I actually enjoy shopping. I know a lot of people don't, so this will be a pro for you, but for me it's a con. As a stay-at-home parent, it's nice to get out of the house and just spend a few hours doing a bit of shopping, and I often find that if I'm shopping and I come home empty-handed, I feel disappointed and almost like it's been a waste of time. Obviously I know that reducing the amount of stuff you buy is for the greater good, but sometimes it's nice to get out and about and buy a small few bits for yourself. Maybe that's just me. It's also difficult because when you're buying something, you don't necessarily know if that thing is going to bring you joy. And that can make the experience a little bit tricky. For example, if you're buying a book, you don't know if you're going to enjoy that book. You don't know if you're going to like reading it. So I find myself often kind of second guessing myself or almost feeling guilty. There's always like that niggling feeling that I've bought something that's not going to bring me joy, and I feel a little bit disappointed in myself. So that has been kind of one small downside to it. It's obviously great to be more mindful of your purchases and what you're bringing into your home, but I feel like now that I'm second guessing myself a lot when I go to buy something. Sometimes it's a good thing, it stops me buying a lot of stuff that I don't really want or need, but often takes the fun out of buying something just nice for myself. So I think sometimes it's nice just to make a little frivolous purchase, especially if it's, you know, small and inexpensive. So I have found that to be a small con with some pro elements, I guess. Once you move on to kimono, which is the miscellaneous category, things start to unravel very quickly. So you do clothes, books, papers, and then just everything else in your entire house. That is a pretty massive task to undertake, and the lack of guidance or instruction in the book can make that quite difficult. I know there is a list, a very small list of some small categories that you can do, like CDs and DVDs, but overall it's pretty scant on information. And that's not Marie Kondo's fault. It would be impossible for her to list every tiny possible category that somebody could have in their house. But as you go on, it does make things very difficult. It becomes difficult to categorize things. So, for example, when I was in the kitchen, KonMari'ing the kitchen, my daughter would have a lot of, you know, kind of plastic plates and sippy cups and, you know, little plastic forks and knives, little things like that. And I was unsure whether to include those in the kitchen category, whether to leave them to the kimono category and do them kind of as a miscellaneous, or whether to leave them out entirely and just finish the process and then come back to them. Because I know she does say in the book that you should focus on your own stuff first. So that kind of made me hesitate. And I mean, I guess a lot of you out there are probably thinking, oh my God, just pick one and do it. Just get on with it. And that's fine, and that's great. But when you're doing that with every other item in your house, it really slows down your progress. You're always trying to think, what category does this belong to? Does it belong to this category? Does it belong to another? Some things don't easily fit into a category. So there's lots of little bits and bobs around the house that aren't necessarily easily put into or pigeonholed into one specific category. So asking all those questions and not having very specific categories does slow down your process. Another thing I have found, going by categories instead of locations means that only part of your room will be decluttered, but the rest of the room, if you're anything like me, will still be in bits, still be just utter chaos. So it's difficult to see progress, particularly when the decluttered things are put away somewhere. Because usually part of the process is that you declutter something and then you put it away, you give it a home. But often those homes are in out-of-the-way places that you don't immediately see when you walk into a room. So your clothes go back into your wardrobe or your closet or chest of drawers, papers go back into the filing cabinet, things like that. Whereas clutter tends to accumulate where you can see it. So on the floor, on countertops, surfaces. So when you walk into a room, it can be a little bit disheartening that you're not seeing much of a physical difference unless you're going and opening all the cupboards and stuff. But that can be a little bit disheartening, not immediately seeing a visible difference. So it's kind of the difference is going on behind the scenes. And then finally, going by category also means that the remaining clutter can tend, or I have found that it tends to creep back into the spaces that you have decluttered. And that's, so for example, if you have cleared a bookcase and you've whittled it down, maybe you're only using 1 or 2 shelves now for your books, and there are extra shelves that are now free. It's easy, the temptation is to put some clutter onto those shelves, maybe just to get it up off the floor, to get it out of the way. So by doing a category and leaving the rest of the space disorganized, you tend to put cluttered stuff in with the decluttered stuff. And that again makes the whole idea of seeing a visible difference a little bit more tricky. So this is also very difficult if you share a space with somebody. I obviously share the space with my husband and my daughter, and they are not on board with the method at all. Obviously, my little girl, she's only 2. She doesn't understand it. I am trying to teach her to kind of clean up after herself and put things away, and she is learning. My husband, on the other hand, is a bit of a hoarder. I've mentioned that in previous videos. He does not see the point in getting rid of things at all. And that is difficult because the spaces that we share, while all of my stuff may be decluttered, all of his stuff is still cluttered. So again, it makes that kind of visible difference, that initial impact. It reduces that. It's also hard to find a space for something or a home for something if the rest of the space is still cluttered. For example, when I was doing the bedroom, not doing the bedroom, but doing the clothes. So all my clothes now are nicely organized, but the rest of the bedroom is still cluttered. So there are some things in there, like shoes and bags, that I don't really have a home for yet, that I might have a home for if I had just finished off doing the rest of the bedroom. So not finishing off the space doesn't really give you an idea of how much space you have to work with. So those are the cons, but as I promised, I am going to go on and do the pros now, just in case you were kind of thinking, oh, that's it, that's not for me. There obviously are pros. The first pro is that you will declutter a lot of your stuff. A significant amount, much more than you would if you were just doing kind of a regular decluttering spree or a regular purge. Pulling everything out and holding everything individually really does make a difference. There were things that I didn't think that I would be able to part with, but when I actually held them, I realized it was going to be much easier to do than I thought. So the physical attachment to something, physically holding it, kind of counterintuitively is a good indicator of whether or not you have an emotional attachment to it. So actually holding things does that's the difference in the method, I feel. That's what kind of sets it apart and makes it better than other just regular decluttering methods. The second pro is that it drastically changes your attitude. Deciding what to keep rather than deciding what to get rid of reduces that sting of getting rid of things and that reluctance you have to get rid of things. If you're focusing on what to get rid of, you're focusing on the negative things. So you're focusing on the amount of money that you spent on it, or you're focusing on the fact that it doesn't fit you anymore, and you're focusing on the fact that you haven't used something and it's proved kind of useless or wasteful in your life. So you're focusing on all the negative things, and that can kind of tend to bring you down and disenamor you with the whole process of decluttering. But with the KonMari method, you're focusing more on the positive side of things, on the things that bring you happiness and make your life easier. So you're thinking, oh, I feel really great when I wear this, or I really love this item, or this piece of furniture is so comfortable, it really makes my life just that much more comfy and cozy. So it focuses on the positive. And leading on from that, it reduces the emotional wrench and the emotional attachment that you have to things. When you take the time to thank your items and to think about how they help you, how they improve your life, that really does make a difference. That really makes an impact. When you think about how they make your life easier, or if it's a gift, you think about the person who gave it to you and how much they mean to you, or maybe the lesson you've learned from buying something. you don't feel so bad then about getting rid of it or how much money you've spent on it, whatever. So it does reduce that emotional attachment, and it makes it easier then to part with things, which I guess is the very difficult aspect of decluttering for a lot of us. The next pro is that you have more free time. When things are decluttered, it's much easier to clean and it's much easier to find things. So plain and simple, it frees up some time for you. And then the final pro is that it makes you so much more grateful for your stuff. So in the book, she talks about thanking your house and your belongings, your clothes, etc. I don't know if she literally means thanking your house, out loud or whatever, but I think she means just taking that time to think about how things improve your life and make your life easier, and you just start to appreciate everything you have so much more. That makes you feel happier. You feel blessed with what you have. So you're thinking, these shoes are really comfortable. I'm so glad I have them because, I had to do a lot of running around today and they made that easier. Or I really love this chair. It's so comfortable and I love curling up in it at the end of the day, to unwind or whatever. It helps me to relax. So it just helps to cultivate some gratitude in your life, and that overall makes you much happier. So those are the pros. You will declutter a lot of stuff, much more than you think, and it will make your house feel much more spacious, much less chaotic, and your brain as well. And it will make you much more appreciative of what you have. If you are thinking of starting out on the method and you've listened to my pros and cons and you're still unsure, kind of a little bit hesitant or reluctant, some advice that I would have, the first piece of advice is to stick very closely to the method when you're starting out. Don't dismiss something out of hand just because you think that it's silly or it won't work for you. When I thought about thanking things, I thought it was a little bit ridiculous, but a little bit airy-fairy. But in the end, it actually proved really beneficial for me. As I said, it just made it so much easier to let things go. It helped me appreciate what I do have. As long as, go along with it, and then after a while you will realize that certain things maybe aren't working out for you, and then by all means tweak it. But I would say initially give it a fair shot, follow the method, and you will see benefits to it. If something's not working after a fashion, then think about changing it, but do stick to it as closely as possible to start out with. And this is a big one. This is one that I have fallen down on. So please learn from my mistake, but get the decluttered stuff out of your house as quickly as possible. Don't let it build up. If it builds up, you're tempted to kind of go back in and maybe salvage some things, or your family might be tempted to go through and salvage some things. And the visible difference, like you won't see as much of a visible difference if you've still got piles of stuff lying around. So if after you've decluttered you get that stuff out of the house immediately, you will see a bigger visible difference, and that will spur you on to continue the method. That will motivate you. So if you've been following my journey, you'll know that I am currently on a break from the method, because I need to take time to actually clear out all the clutter that has taken over my home. It was building up in piles all over the place, and I didn't even realize how bad it was and how much stuff there was. I thought maybe 1 or 2 trips to the charity shop, but no, I was very much mistaken. By not doing it as I went along, I'm now faced with a much bigger challenge because there is so much of it, and I've had to take this time out. I've taken a month out of it, and it has broken my momentum, basically. Up until then, I was kind of plowing through the method, going really well. Now I feel that I have kind of broken my motivation slightly, and that I'm going to be starting from scratch. So that's a little bit disheartening. So if you want to get the most out of the process and make the biggest difference in your home, declutter as you go. I cannot stress that enough. I've already started doing this a little bit when I did my kitchen and my laundry room, and I'm going to have links to those in the description box below if you want to check those out. But I'm not going to let myself get caught up in categories or be tied down by categories so much. I'm going to try and stick to them as much as I can, but if there's a space that I want to declutter, I'm just going to do it. If there's a category that takes up most of a space, but there are still some random bits in the space, I'm just going to do those as well and just finish off the space. So the next category that I'm planning on doing is the hot press, or the airing cupboard, or the linen closet, or whatever you like to call it. So technically the category is linens, but in our hot press we have bedclothes and towels, but also a lot of Scouts' old clothes and baby blankets. And there's even a wedding dress in there that I bought before I found the one. So that's in there. So though the category that I will be tackling is linens, I'm not going to exclude something that's in there just because it doesn't fit into that category. I'm going to do the whole space. I really have enjoyed the process thus far. I've seen great benefits to it. I am excited to continue and excited to see how many more improvements I can make in my home, how many more benefits there are. I'm finding as I go along that my joy meter, as I am calling it, is becoming much more refined. So things that did spark joy for me when I went through them the first time, I'm finding that they no longer spark joy for me. So the standard has been raised, the bar has been raised, it's being set higher as I go along. So I can definitely foresee myself going back over categories that I've already done. But for now, I am going to plow on because I want to get to the finish line first before I do that last lap of the track. If you want to keep up with my KonMari progress, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you found this video helpful or enjoyable, or if you just like an Irish accent, a thumbs up would be so much appreciated and would spur me on to greatness and glory. So as always, thank you so much, or Gurmila Mahagwiv, if you really are here for the Irish element. Agus Fecky Mishif Shikalua. Have a good one.